Hey, guys.
Refer back to that.
Well, call me to order.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cruz.
Here.
Mr. McLaren.
Here.
Ms. Barber. Ms. Campbell. Here. Mr. Legess.
Here.
Mr. Lear.
Present.
Ms. McBride. Here. Mr. Nicholas.
Present.
Mr. Vickery.
Present.
Mr. Whitus. Mr. Whitten.
Present.
Ms. Wilson. Here.
Quorum is present. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, will we have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting? Made by Mr. Whitten, seconded by Mr. Vickery. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Mintz is here. I saw him yesterday as report to give. One of the things we'll have to keep an eye on, I know you said there's like 11 bills that they're aware of that basically aren't being considered unfunded mandates that will come back at us. So we will continue to keep an eye on those. So, Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start out. It's a mess down there. And at the UCCI meeting Monday, lead off, Curry and Winters representatives discussed the pros and cons of the constitutional question to be on the ballot November 8th, 2008. And there's pros and cons on both sides. And one person feels if you open it up completely, you might not get what you'd like to have at the end. And they, I guess what they're saying, maybe they should take one step at a time and try to do it legislatively and through questions presented to the voters of the state of Illinois. But that's a long way in coming on how they're going to get to that problem yet. Talking about the constitutional, there's 4 items that have been presented. 3 of them have been tabled and 1 has been defeated. They were talking about changing the way the individuals and the corporate tax returns filings and rates were going to be filed, and that has been defeated by the Senate. So I don't think that question is going to come up again unless it comes through the Constitutional Convention. In the set of bills for local governments and counties, there are 11 bills right now out there for unfunded mandates. And just to show you, one of them that we're getting into is insurance for eating disorders for treatment. That they're trying to get a bill out there that for people that have eating disorders or too heavy or too thin might need to have some help through legislation and the insurance. But that's just one of them. But there's 11 of them out there. As I mentioned to Carl yesterday, I think the state's attorney and the finance committee might want to look at House Bill 3393. That pertains to the marriage license that they obtained from the county clerk. And I'll be the first one to admit that I might not have all the facts in order, but I believe currently the marriage license fee is $20. And the state is proposing that it could be raised to $25 with a $5 surcharge going to the to be deposited in the state domestic and violence legal assistance fund. If you don't pass that, it's my understanding, and I may be corrected on that, that if you don't pass it, they'll take $5 from your $20 marriage fee. So, 1 or 2 counties have already adopted the legislation that the $5 may be implemented, but the others were still sitting on their hands. Senate Bill 1960, IMRF benefits vested in 5 years rather than 8. That's one of the things. House Bill 4261, death benefits from $3,000 to $5,000 in Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. And Senate Bill 2820 provides that senior citizens need to be informed about their homestead assessment disclosure agreements, and that will have to come from the county clerk. just to show you what has happened down there, this 1432 is one of them that I just mentioned. And then they have Senate Bill 2654. And when that is written up in the write-up, it has nothing to do with the original presentation of what was in 2654, because 2654, excuse me, let me get the, pertaining to park commissioner's land sale, and that was in Will County, that they wanted to do something with a golf course, and it was a county with a population greater than 500,000 but less than 1 million. And that was sponsored by James DeLeo and Wilhelmia, senators, 2 senators. They just dropped that bill, that language, and Terry Link has got a substitute for that, and it reads as follows: amends Senate Bill 2654 by replacing everything after enacting clause with the following. Section 5, the Capital Development Board Act is amended by adding section 10.09-1. And what they're talking about, and good Lord only knows how far it's going to go, have a state capital development board for all construction within the state of Illinois, all jurisdictions. And the question I presented was, how does it pertain to agriculture? Well, agriculture farm buildings will be exempted. I asked what the fees were going to be, and they said, how dare you ask about fees? We don't know what it's going to cost. But it could be one of those unfunded mandates again, and you have a copy of the bill that's been presented by Terry Link.
What's the number of that bill?
Senate Bill 2654. It's could be a very interesting bill. Senate Bill 2275 reads as follows: the Juvenile Act of 1987 and the Unified Code of Corrections provides that persons under 18 years of age, rather than 17. Currently, we have 17 who commit offenses are subject to the proceedings under the Juvenile Act. So what they're going to do is raise the age from 17 to 18 with this bill 2275. Some very interesting questions coming up. Mr. Chairman, that's basically what happened in, as far as legislative sessions is concerned. Consensus is the Senate and the House and the governor haven't gotten together to get the budget ready yet, and we don't know when that's going to be and what's going to come of it. There's a lot of capital money, like $32 million that Denny Hazzard and Pouchard, the president of Southern Illinois University, are working on trying to get something passed, because time is fleeting. There's a lot of federal funds involved. If the Illinois State Legislature doesn't pass it, capital expenditures for roads, education, and things like that might not occur, because that money is not going to be available, and they've got till the 31st to do it unless they carry it over into special sessions. And there's quite a thought that they're probably not going to get organized and closed by May 31st. Other than that, the fun part of it is the UCCI agenda for the golf outing and education seminar will be July 28th and 29th at Eagle Ridge, Galena, Illinois. I'll give you a schedule on that. For those people that are not golfing, there's going to be a program on antiques that you may bring an antique and get an appraisal of it up there. They're going to have some special people. So we'll leave that schedule with you. And there's a golf registration form and room fees and things like that. And that's basically what I have for you today. If there's any questions, please present them or talk to me sometime later. But, the next UCCI meeting is the 28th and 29th of July.
Any questions? Mr. Lerner?
Mr. Chairman, in regard to the marriage license, the county clerk reported some information in regard to that too, so you may want to check with Mr. Clark on what's happened in terms of, because he reported a statute that has been passed and signed by the governor. in terms of marriage licenses. I'm not sure what's going on.
We'll follow up with it with
He
the
told us
state
that
attorney.
yesterday.
Yeah, make sure that we do something with it. Mr. McLaren?
Thank you, Chairman. In reference to House Bill 2275, the Juvenile Act, for those of you that don't sit on the Criminal Justice Committee, this has been a bill that we've been watching very, very carefully. It will impact the sheriff and his budget tremendously. If this does pass, I believe they definitely have been fighting this bill all along from day one. We've been watching very closely for almost about a year now, it seems like, hasn't it?
It's been 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
We have opposed it, we've sent letters opposing it. It won't only impact the sheriff, it'll impact probation.
Absolutely.
And everything.
The court system from the top down.
Yeah, it'll impact everything. And what's amazing is the state will put in their little synopsis that there is no fiscal impact. There's a huge fiscal impact. So, at the criminal justice meeting the other day, basically the state is only reimbursing for those probation officers at the rate of 60%, where it's supposed to be 100%. So, not only will it be an impact to the counties, there will also be an impact to the state, and why they don't see that, realize that. But like Ed said, nothing good's coming out of Springfield right now.
The only other comment I have, and it's rather interesting to watch, especially somebody like myself. The House passed a bill that they were not going to accept our pay raises, and it went to the Senate. In the Senate, if they just sit on it, everybody gets their pay raises automatically. If the Senate passes a bill that's not exactly the same wording as the House bill, it doesn't fit either. So, and if the Senate puts it on hold in a committee until after the election, pay raises still can go through because the General Assembly has till the 1st of January to act on that. So it's one of those things that somebody plays games and we didn't vote for it, but they'll take it.
Right. Any other questions? Thank you, Ed.
Thank you for your time.
On to information services. Yeah.
Just briefly, for those of you that use the web interface for the email, you may have noticed that that's been going out and off. It's because we've exceeded the license for that. We have more people using that now. We've been resetting that for right now, but we will be updating the email server, so I apologize for any service that's been interrupted. Just trying to stay within budget, so we haven't replaced it yet. In addition to that, we've added some links to the county clerks, the treasurer, and to the assessor's office. On the front page of the websites, we have the links for the public to be able to research their current taxes and their delinquent taxes online. And I've been working with the assessors where we've added some documentation for as far as, I think it's exemptions, which once again would go on, we know that's the topic that's going on right now. So just for informational purposes, as far as the email, bear with us. We are testing new email servers, and we should be able to replace that in the near future within a couple of weeks. And wanted to make you aware that we have put search information on the front page of the website.
Mr. Laird?
Mr. Devon, I'm a bit confused by what you were just saying in terms of the link you put on the front in terms of taxes. Would you?
Yes, the county clerk and the treasurer have had websites that I don't know if they advertise that much, that allows the people to go and use your parcel number or your street number and look up your tax information or your delinquent tax information. Well, it's kind of, I didn't see any advertisement, and I knew I was aware of it because we host that. So what we did is I talked to both of them. It's like, let's get that more visible. I've heard more questions about people. I've been in community services meetings and heard that's been a topic. So instead of having it buried or off on somebody else's website, we brought to the front page. So if you go to the county website, it's immediately there. So the public can look up their own tax information. And as far as the assessors, that was something that Steve came to me and he wanted to put some information online.
Okay, I guess what I'm not clear on is in order to access it, you'd need your property,
You can do it that way, or you can do it by your street address.
do it by your street address. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The health department, Bonnie.
Just a couple of informational things. We do have a new telephone system at the health department. Our old system had been in existence since we started over 20 years ago. We received some one-time funding, additional funding granted by the legislature last year to all health departments in Illinois that was to be used for infrastructure, things like this, so we did use that for the new system. So we do appreciate the county holding off issuing the new phone book till we got those numbers in. So our new numbers are in the county directory. Other than that, our funding continues, our grant funding for this year, most of our grants end June 30th, pretty much level funding across the board. We did get a big decrease in the West Nile funding. You may have saw this week that Governor Blagojevich released a press release that there was $2.8 million distributed around the state. We received $25,000 last year, but this year the formula was changed and the funding was only given to those counties that had positive birds or human cases or mosquito pools. And we fortunately did not have any of those. So, but consequently then we didn't get the funding either. So we will continue to be monitoring that and doing the education things that we had done before under our vector grant, but we'll be unable to do it, assist with the larvicide as much as we did last year there. Other than that, most of our grants are level funded, so. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go down to the VAC report. We have that in front of you. I have a motion to accept by Mr. Lear, seconded by Mr. Wynn. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Campbell, do you have anything else from VAC today? Good, thank you. Personnel HR issues, nothing to report today. Administrative issues, the update on the parliamentarian. Presented this last month, just a little update. Whoever, I mean, if we move forward with this, whoever we would have chosen as a parliamentarian will have to have knowledge of not only our code, but Robert's Rules of Order. That's the way we operate, so they would have to be fully updated on what's going on with that. And basically, they would just help whoever the chairman is in keeping an orderly progress on what either committee or county board is doing. So, case in point would have been like last month's meeting when, I forgot, we had an executive session. Parliamentarian would have raised his hand, point of order. We have executive session on the agenda, we need to move forward with that. So it's just things like that, you know, whether somebody's spoken twice, 3 times, once, you know, in the point of orders, if, you know, especially when we have a motion, then you have an amendment to the motion and things like that. So just to help with all of the rules of the parliamentary procedure of a meeting. So I will just bring it up again. If you want, we can talk about it. If you want to try and implement it when you turn the board over in a few months, not going to hurt my feelings on it. So, or if you want to try and start doing it in the meetings and, you know, for on a temporary basis to see how it works, it's something we can do too. So I would open it up for discussion. Ms. McBride?
Yes, how many times are you allowed to speak to only one question?
During the county board, 2 times.
Is that really enforced?
On any one question. Now, during committees, we allow more because this is where really the questions, the answers, you know, the topic needs to be hammered out. So we allow more times during committee.
Okay, what procedures do you go through if the person just continues to speak and speak?
Physical violence? I'm sorry. I say that out loud.
So far, I hope we haven't learned, or I hope I haven't let anyone speak on any one issue more than 2 times, so. But if there is, anyone actually from the board right now could, raise their hand and call point of order. So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Witt?
Thank you, Chairman. What's the difference in a parliamentarian and a sergeant at arms?
Parliamentarian will be specifically for the rules of how the meeting is to run. Sergeant at arms would be keeping order within either county board members or public at large or department heads who are irate or whatever. So
I feel a sergeant at arms would be more important than a parliamentarian myself.
you thinking about getting out of control?
Taking on somebody?
Well, what I'm referring to is sometimes the audience gets out of control when people are speaking, and if you had sergeant at arms, they could control the public.
You got a 2-row buffer here, Leo. Well, I'm right back here. And I'm next to Jess. He's the one who starts all the problem back here.
Okay.
My opinion.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. McLaren?
Thank you, Chairman. I think in reference to the crowd that Mr. Whitten spoke of, I certainly believe it's within our power to raise a point of order.
Correct.
Through that process also, direct the chairman to silence the crowd or whatever that situation may be in order to remedy that situation.
Maybe we could just close it down.
Mr. Nicholas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I think, you should look into it some more, and the appointment would come from your office anyway, wouldn't it? And it wouldn't have to be okayed by the board, so, if anyone sees fit to put their name in there and would want to do that, I don't think we need to beat this around too much.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just looking for some direction. Do you want to try it? Do you not want to try it? Do you want to, whatever.
Sure.
And you know what? I'll suggest this. Talk on your, kind of decide what you want to do, and we can bring it up. We'll vote on it next month, and one way or the other, we'll either be on with it or we will drop it. Mr. McLaren?
Just one final comment. I guess I think I'd like to know what kind of expenses would occur out of this. Would that be paid in a sense on a per diem, as the members are, not necessarily the same amount, but I mean, or would it be a part-time position, a full-time position? What would this actually entail? And I think cost, we would like to have a ballpark figure before we think about what we're going to do.
Yeah. Ms. Campbell?
This doesn't pertain to the parliamentarians, but it does pertain to the committee meetings. I've noticed in the couple years or whatever that I've been here, that a lot gets brought up into a committee meeting that does not need to be, that you could call the department head and talk to them. Is there anything you can say, like when someone just comes off the top and says, something, ask a question that could be asked just by the department head? It doesn't have to be on record. It doesn't have to be in the committee. Couldn't you say, well, would you deal with that with the department head? Because I have been at committee meetings that have gone on forever and a day over the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. I'm sorry, some of it's just dumb. And when you could call the department head and find out. I get called all the time by aldermen. I mean, they don't stop at their committee meeting and say, something like that. They'll call me up and ask me. I don't know if it's grandstanding by some of the members, if they just want their name on the record. I don't know. But I think something should be done. Speaking of calming down a crowd, the back row's a little rowdy today. No, I'm just curious.
There are questions that come like
We need a sergeant at arms right now?
a department head actually has, they can say, why don't we talk about this later? The chairman should also say, that information isn't here right now, why don't you sit with them later?
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
Because I've seen meetings just go on and on.
Yeah. Okay, we have 2 reappointments. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules and put them both together by Mr. Nicholas, seconded by Mr. McLaren? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now do I have a motion to accept the appointments by Mr. McLaren, seconded by Ms. Wilson? Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any old business? Any new business? You're not on the agenda.
I know.
What do you need?
If I could address your committee. Sure. Just for some information purposes. Good morning. Usually we discuss this in judicial committee, but I thought I'd bring it to the attention of Carl in the executive committee today. With respect to the 17-year-old age change to 18-year-old for juveniles into the adult court, actually the adult juveniles come down to the juvenile court. There was a vote yesterday in Springfield. The House got an opportunity, it had passed by the Senate, and the House voted. It failed, believe it or not, 57 to 55. So I don't know where it's going from here, but we've got our report finally, I think, finalized. We're going to do a final review of it, probably send it off just to support our position from our Suburban Chiefs Committee. The other thing is, for your consideration, I am in receipt of an email from Judge White and his court administrator. And briefly, if I might, in anticipation of the eventual approval of legislation that would change the age of juveniles from 17 to 18, Will County is anticipating the expansion of their juvenile detention facility, of which we own 25% of the beds there. As some of you may know, we currently have partnership with Kankakee County for 25% of 102 beds, River Valley. I believe that this partnership has worked to the benefit of both parties. Accordingly, we would like to explore a similar arrangement with other jurisdictions to allow them to utilize, in parentheses, leased beds at River Valley Justice Center. Since the amount of interest could impact the size of our potential expansion, we would appreciate hearing from interested parties by this summer. We understand that this is a policy decision that probably needs to be considered by a number of entities in your jurisdiction, and he gives his regards and says please feel free to contact him. So that being said, we have talked about this just in general terms numerous times, Carl and I, with regards to our operation, and I think probably just for consideration, I don't know what you want to do, take this back to judicial and inform them, or look into the expansion. Are we going to consider purchasing additional beds if there's an expansion? Are we going to just remain status quo and then lease some of the beds that they may have? If we own them, when they're leasing them out to other facilities, there's a revenue generation thing of which we have been in receipt of revenue. So there's a lot of things to consider. So I just thought I'd bring it to the executive committee and pass it on to Carl.
Boy, am I glad I've done it to you for a few months. Mr. Vicker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What are the numbers? How many people do we have there now?
Well, obviously it changes by the hour.
I understand.
And just to give you an idea, we own 25, essentially 26 beds, because there are 102. We have maxed out our bed capacity 3 times in the last couple of years. So we have had our minors locked up in the facility and maxed out our bed usage rate.
What is our average?
Probably around 16, and I'm pulling that off the top of my head here. We have in 11, I believe, today. But this is a number that can fluctuate on a horrendous scale. If you have a young person that's been locked up for a felony, which we do now, a major felony of sexual assault, this could
this minor could sit in there for 6 months to a year waiting trial, or waiting transfer to the adult division while the hearings and processes and evaluations and assessments, and I can go on. So it's a difficult number to pin down. I can tell you that, and I'm being redundant for a lot of people probably, the fact that we own those beds, the fact that our judiciary has the comfort in knowing that those beds are there for our availability and use has been an incredible asset to Kankakee County and the judiciary and the court system overall in the past 10 years that we've used that. So their number that they're talking about is an additional possible 50-bed pod added on, approximately $9 million is some of the numbers that they're throwing out. Obviously, that'll change with regards to cost and expansion and construction. So those are things that we're probably going to talk about or, elaborate on later.
Mr. McClure?
Thank you, Chairman. Rick, I certainly appreciate the new information, but I do believe the proper committee to bring this to would be the criminal justice, and there are some things I would like to talk to you with personally before we delve into that on a one-on-one basis.
Sure, absolutely. Glad to do it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Rick. Any other new business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn made by Mr. Vickery, seconded by Mr. Legess. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Hi.